name is Dawn May, and I'm your Tech Channel Ask the Experts moderator for today. I'm a former IBMer, and I now work within the IBMI community as a consultant. I'm also the current president of the Common User Group here in North America. I would like to welcome our featured expert today, John Rhodes, who is the Chief Technology Officer and Managing Director of CM First. John, by the way, is an avid wake surfer and boarder and is focused on the modernization of enterprise systems, starting with the replatforming of AS400, IBMI, and IBM mainframe COBOL apps as an engineer for Kraft Foods and also for Broadcom CA Technologies. Today, he still works with COBOL, RPG, and other legacy languages, and he helps customers comprehend and transition mission-critical apps to modern languages and software architectures on the IBM I and IBM Z. For today's session, John is here to discuss current trends and technologies to modernize RPG and COBOL applications on the IBM I, with some focus on CA2E, aka sign-on, and CA Plex applications. Welcome, John.
Oh, thank you, Dawn. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So first, can you tell us a little bit more about your company, CM First?
Sure. Yeah, we were founded about 10 years ago and had a mission to help people that had systems written on the IBM I and IBM Z, modernize those, especially people that had code-generated languages like you said, sign-on, CA2E, or also called Cool2E. And people have very large applications that generate RPG and COBOL, and they're looking for ways to modernize those. And we focused on that, but we've also branched out and are helping people that have hand-coded COBOL and hand-coded RPG as well as other languages on the mainframe.
So curious, what does CM stand for? Anything?
That's funny. It originally stood for change management, but now we say it stands for COBOL modernization. But it really is just a made-up acronym.
Sometimes
it goes back
you
to our
do that.
early days. Yeah.
Yeah. What approaches do you see IBMI customers take in modernizing their applications?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's something that's certainly evolved over the years. I think at first, a lot of people were putting front ends on their RPG and COBOL, so maybe that meant using a screen scraper type technology, or it might mean writing a front end in PHP, or perhaps put an API REST interface directly on top of the COBOL and RPG programs. I think people are also starting now to look more fundamentally at how do they modernize, how do they go from COBOL, for example, into things like JavaScript and Java on the back end as well as the front end. So not just another pretty face, but also modernizing the whole application technology stack. So we're seeing a trend towards that direction. We're trying to support that. I think also incorporating DevOps into modernization is also increasingly important, that as you're modernizing to Java and JavaScript, you're also creating the proper DevOps pipeline and automated testing so everything works smoothly and seamlessly.
Do you see special challenges for those shops that use code generators such as Sign-On and CA Plex?
Yes, we do. That's an interesting question. So in my career, I started out as a mainframe COBOL developer, and I was like, well, boy, COBOL's getting kind of antiquated, and this was decades ago. And I talked to my boss, and he said, well, guess what? We have a new System 38, and we don't know what it is, and we'd like you to learn it, and we'd like you to work with this code generator to move some of our applications from the mainframe to the IBM I or System 38 that time. So I got into that product well back in the day, and really we platformed applications, some really large ones like order management and order processing and logistics for Kraft Foods from the mainframe to the IBM I, and we used Sign-On. So it's a tool that has stood the test of time and lets you build really large applications. And so you have a model, and then that generates code from the model. But there's some difficulties with that when you're looking to modernize, because for one thing, the code generator expands the size of the code base. So if you had a application that you may have written by hand and maybe 6 or 7 million lines of code, the application gets expanded tenfold. So you have 60 or 70 million lines of generated code. So as you're trying to look and see how you extract the business rules and maybe move that size of application to something like Java and JavaScript, it gets very difficult. So one thing we do is we have some technology to parse the CA2E model, and look at the business rules and the maps and the relationships that are in the model itself, parse those, but also look at the generated code and also parse the generated COBOL and get information out of that and marry the two together. So when we're transforming a system to Java, we're able to produce something that's very maintainable and not 70 million lines of JOBOL code, as people joke about, unmaintainable Java.
That's interesting. And you mentioned business rules. Why are the business rules of a legacy application important?
Yeah, great question. I think people have been talking about this for a while. No matter what modernization you're encountering, that might mean, rewriting the application. It might mean trying to transform it automatically, or it might mean moving to a package. You really have to understand what makes up your business at the code level. What are the rules that are embedded in there? Because that's how your company is running, right? That's the basic operations manual for the company is embedded in the code. And it might be different than people might even have written down in their written policies and procedures. So it's important to understand those. It's very difficult too, because if you're looking at a system that's tens of millions of lines of code, how do you pull out the business rules? Well, you really need automated technology to help with that. We have some that will help you find what is a business rule and kind of get rid of all the pieces that are just cluttering up that analysis, and let you focus in on the true business rules and make sure that when you're modernizing, again, to a package or by rewriting or transforming, that you've actually captured all of them and haven't left critical ones out or gotten them wrong. So that's really important to have, I think, technology at your side to help you figure out what's there.
It's important for your business to get that right, for sure.
Sure is.
So, yeah. Is it really possible to automate and automatically translate legacy languages like COBOL to modern languages like Java?
That's another great question. It's something we've been studying for a long time. I think when I started my career around replatforming from mainframe to IBM System 38, we tried some technologies there, and frankly, they didn't work. They didn't work well at all. We would get results that were maybe 70 or 80% of what was in the original COBOL on the mainframe would come into the IBM, but that last 30% would just kill you. That you'd have to go in and first of all, find out where the problems are, okay, and then code and remediate those problems. Very difficult, and just realize that wasn't a workable approach at the time. And I think the reason it wasn't workable is parsers were not very well developed. We didn't have the computing power that we have today. So today, I think you're starting to see a number of technologies come out, AI being one of those, but technologies that you can use to parse and transform large systems automatically. And yeah, we're able to do that successfully in many cases.
And here's the challenge of getting this automatically translated, but what are the other difficult parts of modernization projects?
Yeah, there are certainly a lot. A lot of potential bottlenecks or potential problems. I think one thing that people tend to underestimate is that, you're going to have QA and you're going to have testing. A lot of times with these systems, test procedures maybe aren't documented like they should be. They might be stuck in people's heads, and maybe the engineers that originally developed the systems, maybe they've left, and maybe they've retired, right? So you really have to put some focus on how are you going to test the result of the modernized application, and do the size and scale of these applications with thousands and thousands of screens. You really need automation there to automatically do functional testing and automatically do database compares and make sure that you've produced the right result. We like to use RPA quite a bit to help with that. So RPA and also just automated testing in general is a good approach that people should consider adopting when they're looking at modernizing a large system. It's very difficult to do by hand, but of course it's possible, but just it'd be better if you had some automation there. And I think I mentioned before, yeah.
I was going to just ask for clarification. For clarification, in case our listeners don't know, can you tell me what RPA is?
Yeah, it's called robotic process automation. So it's a software bot it's really mimicking what a human might do by hand, but it's maybe recording the steps that someone goes through to test something, and then playing those steps back repeatedly with maybe some inputs changing and some things of that nature. And so if you're doing like a database compare, you might be looking at several different tables to make sure that there's no differences. And so the RPA bot can take what you're doing as a human and then do that automatically and do it repeatedly, and it works all night long, right? And it doesn't have to quit work at 5 o'clock. So you're able to run these tests overnight and a 24/7 type arrangement. So I think robotic process automation is a really great tool to bring to bear on any type of modernization project.
And with that, do you have anything else you'd like to add or summarize today for our listeners?
Oh boy, I guess in summarization, I think I think in the past it's been very difficult to use automation to get business rules out of systems and to transform systems from one language to another. But I think in today's modern environment, it is possible to do that. And we have some technologies here at CM First, and other companies do as well, that can help you get move forward, really. I mean, I think with RPG and COBOL, great languages, they stood the test of time. I started my career in that, and I'll probably end my career, with the COBOL systems. So they're not going away. But on the other hand, the people coming out of university are not wanting to really learn languages like that. They want to move forward and learn JavaScript frameworks. And so I think that in itself is a reason that that people should be looking at how do I move from RPG and COBOL to more modern languages and environments. And I think the great thing is that these languages run great on the IBM I, right? So you don't have to change platforms. You don't have to do anything there, but it might be a good thing to look at fundamentally modernizing your application so they work another 50 years.
Absolutely. And so my final question is non-technical. I want to know more about your surfing and wakeboarding hobbies. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So it's something I've done for a number of years, but I had kind of gotten away from it as I gotten older maybe. But during the pandemic, it was one of the few things you're able to do here in Austin. And we're fortunate we have a great lake that's right in the heart of downtown. And I was thinking, well, boy, it'd be nice if I could just get out and do something when things are in lockdown. And so I got back into it, and wakeboarding and wake surfing is a new thing now that people are doing. So you're surfing behind a boat. And it's a great thing to go out, for me anyway, is to go out there at dawn and do an hour or so with some friends. And it really clears your mind for the day ahead, right? So you're ready and refreshed and energized to start the workday. And so I'm a big fan of it.
Well, that's all for you. I don't think I could do that one. Very interesting. Well, so John, thank you so much for being with us today on Tech Channel's Ask the Experts. For our listeners, at the bottom of the screen, you'll find event resources, and you can click on that to find additional information and resources on today's topic. If you do want to connect with John, feel free to send him an email or a LinkedIn request. You can find his contact information in the resources. And then finally, as a follow-up, you'll receive an email with a link to today's conversation. And please feel free to forward it to your friends or colleagues that might benefit from this information that we shared with you today. And with that, thanks again, John, and we'll see you next time on Tech Channel's Ask the Experts.
Thank you, Dawn.